Welcome to this week's episode of Ambitious, Awakened, and Aligned. Today, I welcome Urmi Hossain. This woman has an incredible list of experiences. She is a woman who wears many hats: a self published author, a speaker, a blogger, a polyglot, a mentor, and holder of both the CFA and CAIA designations. She works in the financial services industry in Canada, where she lives. Her first book, Discovering Your Identity: A Rebirth from Interracial Struggle, reflects her journey of being a third culture child. Passionate about women's empowerment, Urmi is the social media lead for Women in Leadership's Victoria chapter and the campaign manager at Femme Influence. She has been a part of proponent of learning and self-development, and she is very passionate about public speaking. Hence, she's been a part of the Toastmasters Club since 2019. She's served on many roles. She loves HIIT workouts, boxing, and running. You guess it, she is filled with energy, and I'm so excited to welcome Urmi to our podcast today. So, welcome, Urmi, to our podcast this week. I'm so excited to have you as a guest and have you share some of your incredible journey with us today.
Hi, Lori. Thank you for having me.
Mm. So Urmi is based in Montreal and she's bilingual. You probably speak many languages. I have a feeling you have a few languages. How many languages do you speak? That's a fun topic.
4.5. I always say 4.5.
That's amazing. I'm in awe of you for that capability. So, just such a beautiful dichotomy of experiences that you've had and things that you're involved in. So, we're going to start with a little bit of the journey of identity evolution and leadership. And so you wrote a book called Discovering Your Identity, and
hmm
it's a rebirth from an interracial struggle. I've come to learn, as I'm sure you have, identity is never static. We're always evolving. So, who is Ermi becoming today? And what parts of your past self are you shedding as you continue to that next level?
hmm I would say, if I have to describe myself in a couple of words, I would definitely tell myself that I'm a very determined and very ambitious woman. And I think that a lot of my past experiences did shape me into the person that I am. And I would say that they made me aware of the diversity around me and the fact that I went through a struggle of cultural identity and trying to fit in and trying to, always um, being part of the group or feeling or wanting to be part of a group or wanting to belong made me aware that sometimes it's never about fitting in, but it's more about finding what's best for you. And
Mm,
it's about creating that fit for you. And that was one of the things that I struggled with when I was growing up because I have multiple cultural backgrounds. I am Italian by birth and Bengali by blood, but I always struggled in, trying to fit in. I never felt like I was Italian enough. I never felt like I was Bengali enough. And I always went through that conflict, internal conflict of like, who am I exactly? I was constantly surrounded by Italian people, and I felt I was Italian, but then I was always aware that I wasn't because I didn't look Italian. I was not Italian by blood. I was just Italian because I was born in Italy. And when I was at home, for instance, like everyone around me was Bengali, my parents, my sister, and everything. But even there, I feel like there was a conflict because I feel like that because I grew up in such a Western society that my mentality was a bit different. So I went through that struggle for a couple of years. I would say for a lot of years until, I became much older. I started to see that there were a lot more people out there, there were culture kids, and I finally started to realize that it wasn't a journey that that I was going through. Like a lot of people go through the same thing.
mhm.
So yeah, that's what happened.
It's interesting because I do believe many of us go through a similar experience from a different lens.
Mhm.
So I know myself, I grew up in a really small town and, just based on some of the cultural things there, I struggled for years with not feeling like I belonged there. And so it's so interesting that based on different experiences, we're all going to experience it differently. Did you find writing the book helped to evolve that lens for you, or share a little bit about what the process of writing the book did to evolve that identity?
I think it just here's the thing, like when I wrote the book, I feel like it just brought back a lot of memories, and I feel like a lot of the things that happened to me made sense. You
Mm,
know, like it made sense that I was always questioning myself. Like in the book, I say, I went through this school that was strictly Catholic, and I would see like a crucifix in the classroom, or before entering school, there was a church where people would go and pray, or I would see like nuns around schools, and I always asked myself like, who are these people? Like I didn't know much about it. I was not exposed to that part of, like, I wasn't exposed to that religion until I started to go to school.
mm,
And for me, writing the book was very therapeutic, meaning that, it was sort of like digital journaling. You're just going through your own like lived experiences, your memory. And for me, it was a beautiful experience. Like it was like I was reliving all those moments the moment I was writing them, and they were pretty vivid in my mind.
mm,
Pretty vivid. Like it was like they just happened yesterday. And that's how you see it, like the importance of certain episodes when you remember them so well.
mhm,
And so for me, it really just made me a bit more aware a lot of the things that happened to me. And it just made me understand that everything makes sense. Like this is why I've been feeling this way, because I saw a lot of contrast between the two cultures. And so it was normal for me to question everything.
absolutely. And through the questions to start to uncover more of that true identity for yourself, right? I can
Exactly.
only imagine what a gift this book has been to so many people who have experienced what you're experiencing. So we will put the link to this book where people can find it, because I know that this is a continued struggle that people share with what you've been through. So I love that you've put it out in the world. What would you say is the boldest decision you've made that has completely shifted that trajectory for you, that maybe felt impossible when you started thinking about taking it, and yet now you look back and realize that that was a part of the journey?
I would say, like, if I have to think about one thing, I think of self acceptance.
Mm.
For
Share with
me,
us what that means to you.
yeah, for me it was I always felt there was something wrong with me, because I had these thoughts about not feeling like I was fitting in. There was always this constant need of belonging to fitting, and I almost did not like that. Like I was like, I want to make my life easier, and I just want to be associated with one thing. But then I had like conversation with a friend who's also similar to me. She has multiple cultural backgrounds. And then she helped me to realize like the strengths that I have. She was like, you can speak multiple languages. It's not just Italian, it's not just Bengali, like you can speak those two languages that someone who just comes from one country wouldn't be able to relate.
Mhm.
She was like, you have the exposure of the Bengali culture, you have the exposure to the Italian culture. And she's like, now you can also bring the fusion of the two. And I started to see little by little that, it wasn't such a bad thing. Like, it wasn't such a bad thing that I have these two cultures. Yes, there were like questions that needed an answer, but at the end of the day, it was just embracing the two cultures and creating my own version of it. And I started to see that in like little bit in my daily actions. Like, even when I make, let's say, certain cuisine, like let's say I'm making like pasta, there is like I always add a little bit of like Bengali flavor to it. I speak both languages at home, and I never like paid attention to that, the way I communicate, or the way I use my hands. And so it was those little cues that helped me to find my answer, that at the end of the day, I was i- incorporating those two sides in my daily life, but I was never accepting that. And at the end, it was just about accepting myself, loving myself for who I am, and embracing these two beautiful cultures.
Such a vital lesson for our listeners and something I think we're always working on is that self-acceptance piece because then all of a sudden something else will, kind of bubble to the surface and you realize that you've got to look at that and really just sit in that acceptance. We're all unique. We're all brought here for something very special. And women and leaders and entrepreneurs, everyone is navigating something where self-acceptance is like, to me, such a really self-love, self-acceptance, self-worth, these pieces, that's the journey coming home to ourselves.
Yeah.
And, I've really come to understand that many high achievers, which I see that you are, have this invisible tension between who you truly are, that self-acceptance, that self-worth, and who the world expects them to be.
Mhm, mhm. Yes,
Through the lens that we're looking at, right?
yes.
And so, is there a moment where you really felt yourself free from that expectation that you had been putting on yourself? Was there a moment?
I wouldn't say there was like a particular moment, but I know that when I finally accepted myself, like I would say that without being aware, I made a post on my Instagram account where like I'm wearing this traditional outfit, Bengali outfit. And then I made a post where I said, "Here is your Italian Bengali version of Jasmine," because the color of my dress was like the one that Jasmines wear.
Like
And
Princess Jasmine?
yes, yes, from
Nice.
Disney, yes.
Amazing.
And so when I put it out there, it was in that moment that I felt a lot of relief because I feel like I was never comfortable telling people who I was. Like when people would ask me, depending who was ask me the question, I would always say I'm Bengali, or I would just say I'm Italian, depending on who I had in front of me.
Mm.
And every time I was doing that, like every time I was choosing just one and not the other, I feel like I was lying to myself. Like I was not showing up myself for my true self and for my authentic self. And I feel like I was almost neglecting one side of my identity. I feel like I was not telling 50% of the story. And so it was in that moment when I made that post and I thought about it afterwards that this is when I finally came to accept myself and realize that, I am not Italian, I'm not Bengali, I am both of them. And I always tell to people that I am Italian Bengali because I want to tell 100% of my story and not just 50% of it. So,
Oh, that's so beautiful. That moment of stepping into who you truly are is so profound. Yeah, I can picture, I'm going to have to look up this Instagram post because I think that's so powerful for people to step into owning who they are. And that's, if we can do that in our lives, everything expands. So, you hold a lot of leadership roles. You are a busy woman, and professional titles and certifications as we introduced. So, beyond that part of your identity, how do you define your own leadership? What's sort of the heartbeat of how you view leadership?
I would say it's like I always like to define myself as a woman who wears many hats.
Mhm.
And because I do like I'm a very dynamic person. I like to try different things, explore different things, and I like this part of me. Like I feel like everything that I do is very dynamic, and I realize that I'm also my personality is dynamic. And yes, I do a lot of things. I do a lot of things when it comes to leadership, and for me like women in leadership, it's been such a big part of me. I feel like, especially because of the industry where I work, or even also like how I see it around me. I think we need more and more leaders, like women in leadership positions, and I advocate for that. Like I'm always pushing for women, to climb the corporate ladder, to, advocate for themselves, to push themselves to the limit, to show to the world who they are and their potential. And I do the same thing for myself. I think that as a woman, we feel we're not good enough. Unfortunately, we always feel that, and I think sometimes this comes from a lot of reasons, like cultural reasons. So, like society is telling us, you're not good enough, and I want to change that narrative, which is also why I do a lot of volunteering work related to that. Like I am part of Women in Leadership Organization. I'm part of Family Influence. I did a lot of mentoring to many women, and my job is really to empower women. Like I feel like as I empower them, I empower myself. So it's like a win-win situation. And
Mhm.
so I do consider myself, I'm a woman who wears many hats.
Mm. You're involved in so many different things from a women's empowerment perspective, and that's what this podcast is all about, is empowering women to step into that full embodiment of who they are and to trust in who they are as leaders and to start asking for permission to show
Mhm.
up and use their voice. And so what are you noticing as you spread that energy and you mentor? What are you noticing is unfolding?
You know what? Here's the thing, like I mentor a lot of women from different, age range. And one constant thing I always notice is that some women, they really feel like they're not good enough, unfortunately. Like it's
Mhm.
a constant
Still,
thing.
right? It's still
Yeah. Yeah. Like a lot of the people that I have mentored, they are like, let's say looking for a job, but they're afraid to apply for the job because they feel like, oh, I don't meet all the qualifications. I feel like they might not call me. They feel not confident enough to apply for a job.
mm,
Or let's say I've seen situation where maybe, they want to ask for a promotion or have that type of conversation, and they always feel like, okay, but I don't think I deserve it. And I always tell them, if it was your male counterparts, what would he do? He would probably go ahead and, talk about it. So why are you not doing the same thing? And so it's a common theme, this one. This one is a common thing where women are not feeling they're good enough. But then I also saw other women who are very ambitious and they like to get comfortable with the uncomfortable, that they're like just going above and beyond so that, they're taking like bold steps to be who they're meant to be. Like I have us like in this organization that I am part of called Empower Them. um, I have seen like a group of like women who are bold, audacious, determined, who are willing to, step up their game and, pursue their dreams. So my job is really like to really help them to achieve that level. Unfortunately, the problem is that the society makes us feel otherwise, and I think we need to do more job of like spreading this message of equality, women's empowerment, having more women to advocate for themselves, because I don't think we do enough of it, unfortunately.
we don't do enough of it. And you and I, and so many people listening, are going to be on this journey until the day we leave this earth to continue to empower women and spread this important vital message. I was thinking as you were speaking that myself, when I started in corporate, often I'd be the only woman in a room. I would be the one at the table in male dominated industries, and I remember feeling like I didn't sound like them, I didn't look like them, I didn't have the same beliefs in many ways or perspectives or how I might navigate a project as them, and so I know that you've experienced this, where you're in a room where you don't look the same, you don't feel the same, you don't sound the same. So what have you come to understand about how to navigate those rooms for women listening right now that haven't quite gotten where you've gotten to yet? Yeah.
Yeah, let me tell you.
Put a hand back, right? Like
Yeah,
them. Yeah.
yeah, let me tell you. I felt and I still feel the same way you just have described. Like you are in a room full of people and you are pretty much the only woman. And I felt that many times, and I still do that because it happens to me to go to events and I look around and I'm again at the table, I'm the only woman, or maybe I am two. There are two women out of 10, and you feel uncomfortable and sometimes you feel a bit discouraged.
Mhm.
And the same thing happened to me even when I went to my boxing classes. Like I do boxing, and again, there are probably 30 people where out of 30, there are maybe 6 women. And again, you feel like just walking away because you're like, okay, I don't know how I feel about it. But I think the key here is just really sticking to it, like reminding yourself why you are there and why you wanted to be there in the first place.
Mhm.
Like, yes, it could feel intimidating because you see, that there is no representation. There are not that many women. But if you walked away, it would make the situation worse because there won't be any change.
Mm.
And I always say, like, to lead by example. If there is one person doing that, then probably someone else will feel inspired by your action and do the same. And it will sort of create like a chain, like a chain effect where I am there, maybe someone else get inspired by me, so they come and join, and then someone else gets inspired by the second person and they join. So it creates this chain effect. And the goal is always like to not giving up. Like even though it's hard and you don't feel like your voice is being heard, but you showing up, you are really changing the narrative. So I would always suggest to women, like, don't feel discouraged and intimidated by your environment. Um, and to make sure that you're like leading by example and stick to what you have decided, the reason why you have decided to join those places or attend those events. Remind yourself of your why, and be an inspiration for other women.
It's a decision in so many ways, right? It's you make that decision before you walk out your door, not when you walk into one of those spaces. The decision is already made so that you can be that advocate and you can support the other women in the room and you can be an example
Yes.
for everyone that is looking for someone that they can look up to. So just love the work that you're doing. You're also so committed to learning and growth. And so I'm curious if there were one lesson that you feel is absolutely essential to becoming an unstoppable leader that we don't actually talk about enough, what would that be?
Yeah, I would say it's this is adopting this mindset of a lifelong learner, and to always upgrading your skills and knowledge. I always say that learning doesn't stop in a classroom. I think it continues, and it's something that you will do for the rest of your life. Just because you're not sitting for an exam, it doesn't mean you stop learning. And I think learning can come in different formats and in different ways. It's not just like opening a book, but it could be, having a conversation with someone. That could be sort of like investing in yourself. It could be by listening to a podcast. It could be by taking a course on Udemy, and you don't necessarily have to write an exam. It could be by watching documentary. It could come in different formats. And I think to make it much more interesting, or to make your life much more interesting and enriching, you always have to make sure that you are learning something new every day. I think it makes it much more fun. And I think that we live in a society where every leader needs to be very dynamic. You have to adapt to your environment. Things change rapidly, like the technology is changing quickly. We're advancing so quickly, and I think if you want to stay in this game, you have to make sure that you're always like upgrading your skills, improving yourself, learning something new, keeping up with what's happening in the market. And I think that's how you're going to survive on the long run, because if you don't adapt, you're not surviving.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
my lesson is really about that, being a lifelong learner.
Yeah, I'm on that train with you for sure, Ermi. It's, if we wake up every day, I wake up every day and I'm like, what can I learn today? What's that one new insight, perspective, thought? How can I? And then it's about the integration, I think is so important as well. Because we can get caught up in the learning and not in the wisdom of the learning. Like, how do we actually integrate that into who we are, who we're becoming, how we're supporting other people? So
Yeah.
I love that. I'm so interested and inspired by the fact that you're in Toastmasters. So, I haven't heard Toastmasters mentioned in a long time. I used to be a part of the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers, and we had a great alignment with Toastmasters. And you are an incredible speaker. So, what inspired you to be a part of that organization, and how has that amplified so many of the things that we've actually spoken about here today?
Yes. I I joined Toastmasters initially in 2015. I never tell this part to a lot of people. I joined in 2015 when I was still in university. And what happened is when I joined, it was just for the sake of having something as an extracurriculum activity. But I didn't like I joined, but I wasn't getting much out of it. Like our meetings were so big, like there were so many people. There was never a way for me to speak up. And I was like, yeah, I just need something in my resume. So this is what I'm going to add. So I stayed there for like 8 months and then I graduated. So I was no longer part of this club. And then what happened is in 2019, I was like, you know what? I think I want to go back to it. And I feel like at that moment, I had a clear intention and I had a clear goal, which was to deliver a TED Talk eventually or a TEDx. And because I watch a lot of TEDx and TED Talks, I get so much inspired by the people
So
who speak.
inspiring.
Exactly. They speak on a stage, they have an idea, they're spreading an idea, and then they have people watching them. And I feel like it's so empowering. Like when you watch those things and when you do one yourself, it's very empowering. So I told myself, okay, I'm just gonna go back and I'm gonna be part of Toastmasters. So I officially joined as like seriously in 2019. And ever since I never left it. I think that it's part of my self-investment and my lifelong journey. And it's been a beautiful journey because you're part of this club and then you see that there are people who come for the same goal. They want to improve themselves. They want to become better speaker. And what people do not know about Toastmaster is that it's a place where leaders are made. Because not only you learn about public speaking, but you learn about leadership and all the skills that come with leadership, such as active listening skills, critical thinking skills, analytical skills, how to give feedback and things like that. And what happened is Toastmaster has really helped me in a lot of ways. I think that it has helped me to get a lot more confidence, to believe more in myself, to be less afraid to speak up. And I've seen a lot of I've seen a lot of this confidence also being transferred in other stuff of my life. Like I go to a lot of podcasts where I'm invited and I'm comfortable speaking to people. I also opened my own YouTube channel. And I remember many years ago, I was like, I'm never going to open a YouTube channel. Like, forget it. Like, I don't want to show up myself on a camera. I don't know what to say. But then I realized there's so much fun to it and there's so much value that I'm able to gain because I use my YouTube channel as a way to practice also my public speaking skills. Yeah, yes, you're not doing it on a stage, but also speaking virtually. There is like a public speaking etiquette. Like, you need to know how to speak in front of a camera. And so I've seen how it has helped me in the sense that it has given me so much more confidence. And I also deliver like workshop in the past. I've done webinars. I was part of like a panel session. So I feel like I have a lot more confidence right now because of those masters. So yeah.
It's such an encouraging and uplifting community,
Yeah.
and one that expands and evolves who you are as you spoke to. So I thank you for that. But what a journey and what a
Yeah.
beautiful story. What a beautiful story. So when's the TED Talk?
You know what?
You
I'm
have it
putting that.
fixed on the calendar?
No, I wish I don't. You know what? I put it out there on the universe, so everywhere I go, I just say it. And I told myself, oh yeah, I'm gonna do it before I'm 35. And I'm like, I feel like the time is running out quickly, so I have to make sure that I'm doing this. I'm doing this as soon as possible. I did apply for some TEDx, but unfortunately, I got rejected.
Mhm.
But you know what? I don't like to give up easy, so I'm gonna keep continuing to deliver at TEDx because I definitely want to speak on a stage. Like it's my dream to do that.
So beautiful. I see it clearly. I see it very clearly, and I love just even that lesson is we will get turned down, and we may get turned down often, and when we hear the stories of perseverance, then by the time that that dream meets up with it happening for you, it will be the perfect time for when you're meant to do it. So that's incredible. We will be watching for that. I think as you're speaking today, Ermi, one of the things that's really standing out for me is your courage. That you have an innate courage to step into the uncomfortable and allow yourself to I picture the cocoon cracking open every time that you allow yourself to step into that and you get wings and you get your next set of wings. So I'm wondering if there's something aside from TEDx, maybe it's an example that you've had of something that felt really scary and you took that leap, and what did you learn about yourself through that?
You know what? There were a lot of things that made me really scared. Like the fact that I'm speaking on a podcast and that I've been doing it for a while, talking about my journey, was a scary thing. The same goes for my book. That was a scary thing. And the same goes with my YouTube channel. And the same goes with the blog that I used to have
Mhm.
because I was not comfortable telling people who I was. I was not comfortable putting a picture of myself. I was not comfortable having a video of myself. I was not comfortable people hearing my voice. Not at all. Not at all. And like when I think about it back in the days, like if you asked me this question back in the days, I would have told you I'm not doing any of these things. There is no way. But there was always questions inside me. Like I was like, I feel like I have a lot to give to the world. And I used to speak with a lot of friends who were like, you have so much value that you can bring to the world. Go ahead and like do all of these things. Like I was always afraid of people's judgment. And usually you are afraid of people's judgment, not by strangers, but it's from the people that are closer to you who will always have something to say. And yes, I did have some comments. I did have some comments, but I also told myself that maybe it's just 1% of those people that will have something to say because the other 99% will appreciate the work that I do. And it has been like that indeed. Like I'm afraid that I took that leap and I'm not afraid. I'm happy that I took that leap and that I stepped out of my bubble and embraced, the my fear and saw this fear as an answer to growth and being the person that I am meant to be because it really did help me to work on a lot of my skills, such as, editing skills when it comes to YouTube, for instance, promoting myself and building my personal brand through podcasting, working on my writing skills through my book and my blog, building connections, like I feel like if I didn't put myself out there, I would have not had that many connections on my LinkedIn right now because I have like 2,000 connections and I never thought I was going to have that many. And so for me, it was a scary journey and you're always second guessing no matter what you do, you're always second guessing, but I'm happy that I did everything that I have done, and I'm happy that I really, got comfortable with the uncomfortable. Yes.
Yeah, I thank you for sharing that. I think so many people hear a story like yours and think, yes, but look at her. She can do all that and she's capable of that and she has so much confidence and she's got everything that she needs. And then they reflect back that they don't. And the reality is, even a CEO listening to this podcast has something that is bringing fear up for them. We're always going to experience fear. The thought that we can get rid of it is, I think, what causes people to kind of freeze in that fear. We just want to love it. We just want to welcome it in the front seat with us and take it along for the ride and
Yes.
still step in and see who we are meant to become through that process. So I love how you shared so many of them. And next time we speak to you, you'll have another list of things that were scary and you stepped into. So I love that, you're giving people it's back to the permission piece. Everyone listening is you start somewhere. Urmi
Hmm.
did her first podcast, now she's done multiple. I did my first podcast. We each wrote our first book, and who knows what comes after that. It's just about stepping into that and just allowing yourself to become who you're meant to become, so I really appreciate that. I'm really c I you I'm gonna say, have a beautiful blend of this strategic structure, stability sort of feeling, and also, the industry that you've come from has that very structured kind of process focus. And then over here, you're so passionate and focusing on your passions and your freedom and finding alignment and harmony in the things that you do. So, my big mission is to help people understand that these two things can and must coexist. for us
Yeah.
to truly step into who we're meant to be and let that unfold in both our business and life.
Yeah.
So, what have you learned about the integration of those things?
Yes, here's the thing. I feel like in the society where we live right now, we're often associated as, this person working for X, Y, and Z. We're always recognized as that kind of, you know, individual in the society. And I often feel like we lack our individuality because we're associated with the company. Usually it's, you're associated with the profession that you do on your day-to-day job. But I feel like, sometimes there is much more than that. And I think if you want to be recognized in the world, you also want to explore your hobbies and passions right now. I feel like a lot of the times people just wait retirement, they're like, okay, now I have time, I can, you know, work on these things in retirement, but I feel like it's too late to do it in retirement. Like in retirement, you have only a couple of years to live before, but if you want to live really fulfilled and satisfying life, you have to start as soon as possible. Like I always say that lead by curiosity. Like if there is something that you're curious about, like go ahead and try it, explore yourself, explore different things, even the things that scares you the most. Go ahead and do it right now and explore yourself and find out what you're good at and what you're not good at. And for me, I always say that you can find a balance between the two of them, but it's also making a deliberate decision about it. Because I think a lot of the times people are like, oh, I'm too tired, I don't have time to do all of these things. But you can choose to do one thing and just keep on with that one thing. You don't have to do 7 million different things. You can just do one thing, stick to that, and you will see it will bring you a lot more purpose to your life. You will feel much happier. There are also studies about it. You will feel much more, satisfied and fulfilled. And I think it's important to really have that mindset. Like I've read a book called the Ikigai. I don't know if you know the concept of
Yes.
Ikigai, which is, it means the reason for being or something like that. I can't remember the exact phrase right now, but it shows that your ikigai is a blend of different things, and it's about finding that. And they give you like examples on how you can find it, and it's very like easy. It's really about what you're passionate about, how you can serve a community, what gives you fulfillment. And I think it's important that we start like right now, because unfortunately we live in a society where people don't do much and people just stick to their day-to-day job and they think, okay, my life is over now. But I think you can do one thing, and you can just stick to one thing for the time being. And it's about, making a deliberate decision.
So beautifully stated. Thank you. You live by Gandhi's mantra, be the change you wish to see in the world.
Yeah.
You have definitely shown us this today, and I really appreciate the mindset perspectives, the shifts in how people might view something. And just listening to your story, I know is going to crack so many of our listeners open to what is possible. So, if you could leave us with one final message, and maybe it's wrapped around the be the change you see in the world or something else that pops, what is one final thought you would like to leave with our listeners today?
So we spoke about fear, and I have a quotation that I want to read you if you don't mind. It's like on
Please
my phone.
do.
It's my wallpaper. So it says, the quotation says, okay, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. And so that's what I want to leave the audience with. I think that we should really make the fear our ally and just embrace it. And whatever your fear is telling you to do, just go and do it.
Woo! That's a powerful thought. Step into the cave.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Incredible. And our final thing I always ask everyone is what does ambitious, awakened, and aligned mean to you?
I would say, hmm, I would say doing the things that you love.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. I would say it summarizes the whole conversation that we had
Yes.
today.
That's very aligned.
Um, your energy is such a gift to the world. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Until next time.